It appears Ms. Summers has 2 sets of warrants that are currently holding her. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for both sets of warrants. However, Officer Citron, who swore out warrants 21W07363, 64, and 65, is currently on military leave through the 18th. So the preliminary hearing on those warrants will have to be reset to a later date. But the court is prepared to go forward on a preliminary hearing on warrant 21W02775, loitering and prowling, 2776, fleeing and attempting to elude a police officer, a misdemeanor, 2777, forgery in the 3rd degree, 2778, criminal possession of a financial transaction card or forgery devices, and 2779, identity fraud. And I believe Officer Thomas is present. He is off duty, appearing via Zoom as well. And so with that, Mr. Williams, call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. State Code Officer Anthony Thomas. Sir, kindly raise your right hand and take an oath. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to the court today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you kindly state your name and your occupation for the record?
Anthony Thomas, and I work for the Gwinnett County Police Department.
Sir, I want you to think back to February 26, 2021. Were you acting in your official capacity and patrolling the area of, sorry, my glasses are not as good as I wish they were. My eyes are worse. 5995 Oak Brook Parkway, the Armada Inn in North Gwinnett County, Georgia?
Yes, sir, 5985.
5985, thank you for my error. Thank you. About what time were you patrolling that area when you came across a vehicle with a Tennessee tag?
It was going to be around 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. earlier in the morning.
What first drew your attention to that particular vehicle as opposed to any other car?
So earlier that day, I was actually patrolling around the motel, and I saw the car with the headlights on. So I figured, okay, well, maybe somebody's, they're getting in their car, they're getting ready to leave. That's usually the checkout time. I got dispatched to a call, and I came back about 30 to 40 minutes later, and the car headlights were still on, which caught my attention. Well, maybe somebody's in the vehicle. So I went and made contact with the vehicle.
And when you did so, were you able to find, were there any occupants of that particular motor vehicle?
Yes, sir. When I looked inside the vehicle, there was a female in the driver's seat and a male in the passenger seat. Both were asleep.
The female that was in the passenger seat, did you, the person you saw that was asleep, did you ultimately wake up those parties to see if they needed any assistance or why they were sleeping in the car?
Yes, I did. So I went to the driver's side, and the female, I knocked on the window, and the female put the window down. And, I had to figure out, what was going on. I asked them, did they have a room here, and et cetera. The female told me, no, she does not have a room. She was actually waiting for her brother to come downstairs.
Did you identify who that female was as part of your interaction with her?
Yes, I did. I asked for her identification card, and she told me her name was Sarah Summers.
Is the person you know Sarah Summers appearing on this video call?
Yes, sir. Yes, she is.
Can you tell me the name of the screen associated with where you see her?
It says jail video. I guess that's county SCO.
Okay. And this interaction you had with her at the Armada Inn, is that looking within the confines of Gwinnett County, Georgia?
Yes, sir. It's in the Norcross area, in the west side, in the west precinct area.
Well, once you sort of determined they didn't have a room there, you didn't mention the male. Did the male ever wake up?
So I spoke with the female for a while and had another officer came, and while speaking to the female, the male, he was knocked out cold. Eventually, after a while, he woke up, and when he woke up, he looked really disoriented, like he didn't know where he was at, et cetera, et cetera. So I obtained his name and his date of birth to identify who the male was.
I'm trying to understand. I'm looking at a lot of warrants here. What, at some point, did you attempt to make an arrest?
At the moment, I was investigating the reasons they were there because just due to my knowledge of the area, we usually get a lot of stolen cars, a lot of drug activity, and etc. And I had started the canine because just the way the male's eyes were looking, the amount of time they were there, and etc. I believe there was possibly drugs in the vehicle. I started the canine there, in which I advised Miss Sarah that a canine officer would be on the way. When I advised her that, she started to get really upset. She put the car into drive and drove off from officers.
Well, now I'm confused. I thought was the driver not the male?
No, the male was in the passenger seat. The female was in the driver's seat.
When Miss Summers put the car in drive and drove away from officers, were you in your uniform displaying your badge of office?
Yes, I was.
Did you give any commands to her in that first interaction as she's beginning to pull away?
It happened so quickly. I remember grabbing the other officer and kind of pulling her back, just so she wouldn't get her feet ran over because the officer was close to the vehicle. So I pulled it back, and there was another officer that was actually coming in at the moment, and he saw the vehicle pulled off. So I gave radio traffic that hey, the vehicle is leaving, and the officer tried to get behind her. He had his blue lights initiated. He jumped out this vehicle. He had her at gunpoint at the stop sign before you turn onto 85, and they refused to stop the vehicle or come out of the vehicle.
Okay. So that officer that you say had his blue lights on, was that vehicle displaying a prominent badge of office?
Yes, sir.
No, was it a marked patrol car? That's what that means.
Yes, sir. It was a marked patrol car, and he was in full uniform.
Okay. Now, you said that the officer got out of his vehicle, tried to stop the vehicle at gunpoint, but the vehicle did not stop. What happened next?
So the vehicle got onto 85 northbound, and officers were trailing it. We weren't chasing the vehicle due to the fact that we can't chase certain things like that. So we were following the vehicle. One of the officers saw the vehicle get off on Indian Trail, Lilburn Road, and turn into our trailer park homes, which, if I'm correct, the address is 2200 Willow Trail Parkway. The vehicle turns into there, and the officer loses sight of the vehicle. So at that point, we knew there's only one way in, one way out for that complex. So we started to search the area, and we ended up finding the vehicle parked in the back with the vehicle still running.
Were any arrests made of Miss Summers on that date at all?
No, sir. When we found the vehicle, we attempted to give commands to the vehicle, etc., make sure the vehicle was cleared. We were advised by a witness that the female and the male ran off. They left the vehicle and they ran off.
Right. Did you conduct an inventory search of the vehicle?
Yes, sir, I did. I impounded the vehicle by Willard's Record Service, and I conducted an inventory on the vehicle.
And in so doing, did you discover any contraband or other items that were of concern for you in your capacity as a law enforcement officer?
Yes, sir, I did. While searching the vehicle, I'll have to quote exact because it was a lot of things I found. I found in the trunk, in a blue bag, a credit card machine. The machine was a data card SD360, blue and colored. Then inside the blue bag was also an iPad that had the male's picture on the background. I looked in the back seat. I found multiple laptops. There was another card machine called the MSR X6, in the back seat.
Officer Thomas, we're going further. A credit card machine. When you say that, I think about the thing when you go to a store and you run your credit card that sort of runs the transaction. When you say credit card machine, help me understand what you mean by that. What are we talking about?
These were actually cards that well, like a credit card skimmer. Basically, they had a bunch of blank cards and they were making new cards. They were duplicating cards.
Do these machines create cards or process cards, or both, or neither?
They create cards.
Got it.
The the blank cards that were found and the machine.
Did you find some blank cards as part of your inventory search?
Yes, I found multiple blank cards.
Right. Did you find any identifying information of other parties?
Yes, I did. While I was searching, I found, I remember it was in a plastic bag. There was a lot of paperwork with names, date of birth, social securities, addresses, and etc. One of the, I found bank account numbers, and one of the names that stood out multiple times was a female named Jessica Allen. And also I found a social security card with another female named Nicole Elise Bishop in the vehicle.
Did you find any written instruments, any checks?
I did find checks. The checks were signed off from correct with the name Jessica Allen on it.
While I'm looking something up, that sort of as the officers are following the vehicle, did any officer observe reckless lane changes, abrupt turns? Anyone put at risk by how the vehicle left the scene and refused to stop?
To my knowledge, no, sir.
Okay.
That's to my knowledge.
That check you mentioned that was made out to Andrea Beck, B-E-C-K, is that right?
Yes, I believe there was a check. There were checks made out to her, if I'm correct. I have to kind of, like I said, she had a lot of items, so I have to kind of look back at my report real quickly.
Well, I'm looking specifically at 21W2777 that alleges a check made out to Andrea Beck in the amount of $1,500 or more.
Yes.
In such a way that it's purported that the person who gave authority did not do so. So did you speak with Ms. Beck, or did someone from the police department speak with Ms. Beck about that check?
I remember trying to make contact with her, but was not able to.
Did all the events you described before the court, did they all occur within the confines of Gwinnett County, Georgia?
Yes, they did.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Cross, Mr. Lewis?
Thank you, Judge. Is it Officer Thomas?
Yes, sir.
All right. Officer Thomas, you indicated that my client, while the police were talking to her, ended up putting the car in drive and driving off. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And in terms of time or distance, how far did she travel before the vehicle was abandoned?
So from Jimmy Carter to Indian Trail, it's about a mile. Actually, it is a mile from exit 99 to exit 101. So it's a mile.
Okay. And the vehicle was it abandoned at the exit, or I thought I heard you say it was abandoned at an apartment?
It was abandoned at 2200 Willow Trail, which is a like a trailer park area.
Okay, and so you at that point in time, and this is February 26, 2021. Sarah Summers was in court at that time. Is that right?
No, sir, she was not.
Okay, and the male, did you have his name?
Yeah, his name was Jamal Shepard.
Okay, he wasn't caught either. Is that right?
No, sir.
Okay, you took one warrant for loitering and prowling because they were in the car at the hotel. Is that right?
Yes, sir. They didn't have a room there. They had no means of being there. When asked about her brother and trying to confirm which room and etc., her story was not adding up. So I took the loitering and prowling.
Okay, I got the fleeing and attempting to elude from jumping on the highway. The forgery in the third degree, you took a warrant for that, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You didn't make any contact with Andrea Beck, is that right?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay, so between February 26th and today, June the 16th, there's been no contact with Andrea Beck, is that right?
No, sir, I had no way of making actual contact with her. I just had her name, Andrea Beck.
Okay, all right. Did you see any identification in the car with Andrea Beck's name and my client's face?
I did see, if I'm correct, and like I said, I have to kind of look back and report because it's a
Sure,
lot.
that's fine.
There was a social security card, and I believe it had the name Andrea Beck on it, but that was about it.
Okay, did you know if that social security card was a valid social security card, a fake social security card?
By looking at it, it was a valid. Actually, excuse me. Let me correct that. The social security card had the name Nicole Elise Bishop on it.
Okay, so we'll deal with that in a second. In terms of Andrea Beck, there was no identification with Andrea Beck's name on my client's face. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, and if you read something and you want to circle back around and correct something, that's fine. To the best of your knowledge, no criminal investigation division did any investigation or had any contact with Ms. Beck. Is that fair to say? You weren't apprised that anybody contacted Ms. Beck. Is that right?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm kind of revisiting my report because, like I said, names. So we did find information for Andrew Beck. Andrew Beck was not contacted.
Okay, hold on one second. When you say you found information, are you talking about you found documents in the car, or you found some biographical information and attempted to contact him?
There was a driver license for Andrew Beck.
Okay, good. And that driver's license, was it from Georgia?
I cannot recall. Honestly.
Okay, do you recall sticking it into the computer there in the car and confirming that the Andrea Beck was a real person?
To my knowledge, I cannot remember, sir.
Okay, that's fine. I understand it's back in February. All right, so let's move down. And there is, you have a criminal possession of a financial transaction card forgery device. And that is for the vehicle, that's for the device that is used to load people's financial information onto blank, like gift cards. Is that fair to say?
They were actually like blank credit cards with chips on them. So they were cards that can legitimately be used at a regular grocery store.
Okay, so in terms of what you found, I'm trying to understand it. I want to make sure the judge understands it. There was like a credit card skimmer. Is that right? I call it a skimmer. It's somehow loaded near an ATM somewhere. Some legitimate person uses their card, and then the person that puts the fake skimmer or puts the real skimmer comes and takes that skimmer back, and then they load people's information onto another card. That's your understanding of how it works. Is that right?
Yeah, that's my understanding from speaking with other officers who have had prior experience to dealing with these type of.
Okay. And I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. So you saw something that appeared to you to be a skimmer. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
There may be a more technical term. That's what I call it. I'm sure somebody else has called it something else. The judge may have the technical term.
Yeah, I remember the actual names of the other.
Yes, you saw the skimmer, and you saw blank cards that can be used to put the skimmed information onto the card. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. And that's the criminal possession of financial transaction card forgery device. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You found one or more than one of those?
Found two of them.
Found two of them. And were they located in the same place in the vehicle?
One was located in the trunk, and the other was located in the back seat.
Okay. Was there any of Sarah Summers' property located in and around where the skimmers were located?
Yes. So in the vehicle, I found a lot of in the vehicle overall, I found a lot of female items like I found some wigs, I found makeup bags, I found female clothing and etc. that were all given into evidence.
Okay, all right, and that's fine. Did you find any identification belonging to my client, any mail belonging to Sarah Summers, anything with her name on it?
I believe I did find some mail that had Sarah Summers' name on it.
And the address came back to where?
Can I recall the address?
That's fine. The car belonged to whom?
The car was a rental car. I remember running the car in GCI. Okay. It was a rental car.
Rental car. And was the rental car still valid or was it stolen?
It was still valid.
Still valid. Who was the renter of the vehicle?
We were able to obtain the owner of the vehicle, the renter. Like
okay. Okay. Were you able to determine how long the car had been rented for before you had contact with the car at the hotel?
No, sir.
Okay. You have an identity fraud.
Mr. Mr. Lewis, you're trailing off when you look away from the computer.
I'm sorry, Judge. I'm sorry, Judge. That's my fault.
No worries.
You have identity fraud, use or possession with intent to use fraudulent info. Said accused did willfully or fraudulently possess some kind of information, driver's license, social security card. Is that the information that you had for, is that the identification that you had for Miss Andrea Beck?
Yes, Andrea Beck and the Social Security for Nicole Bishop.
Okay, so Andrea Beck, she is the basis of the warrant for both the forgery and the third degree for the check.
Yes.
And also the basis for the warrant for the identity fraud. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You indicated that there was another name, Jessica Allen. What was her name associated with?
Jessica Allen. Give me one quick second, sir. No, I had an Andrea Beck. I had a Nicole Bishop.
Okay.
And there was, okay, yes. So, I had found with multiple email accounts with actually bank account numbers of another individual named Jessica Allen. So
Jessica
she had
Allen.
bank numbers and email accounts.
Were you able to get in touch with Jessica Allen?
No, sir.
Okay. Was there any other identification for Jessica Allen in the vehicle?
To my knowledge, no, sir. That was all I found with Jessica Allen.
Okay. Okay. Nicole Bishop. Did you found something with Nicole Bishop's name on it? Is that right?
Social Security card, sir.
Okay, good. So, and that Social Security card, typically, the Social Security cards I'm familiar with don't have any photo. Is that fair to say? Was there a photo associated with the Social Security card?
No, sir. I don't know of any Social Security cards that have people's photos.
I'm told that sometimes there's some new stuff comes out, but nobody circles back around and tells me anything. Nicole Bishop, did any of her license or any other information appear in the car for Nicole Bishop?
No, sir.
Okay. And you weren't able to reach any Nicole Bishop, is that right?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. No further questions, thank you.
Officer, how did you identify Miss Summers as Sarah Michelle Summers? Did she give a driver's license?
To my knowledge, the female did show me a driver license, and then I also looked her up in jail track, which I realized her and the male had got, they've been arrested by us a couple weeks ago for
I don't need to hear that. I just need to know, how did you identify her?
By ID.
Okay. Any redirect, Mr. Williams?
Yeah, thank you.
Any recross, Mr. Lewis, based upon the court's question?
Just 1 second. Officer,
Yes,
you indicated you identified her by her identification. It appears that you took the warrant on February 26, 2021. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And my question is, I understand the judge had an objection to certain answers. Had you had contact with Ms. Summers before that day, February 26th, or after that day?
So, that same day, February 26th, I made contact with her. That was my first time ever meeting her.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. And you were able to identify her. You had already run her license.
Yeah, I believe she gave me a license, which I was able to see her picture, Sarah Summers, on it.
Before you took the warrant.
Yes, because I can't remember who she was.
I got it. And with that license, when you ran her license, her photo, even though the license may have been out of Tennessee, came up. Is that fair to say?
No, sir. When we run their license, their picture does not come up. I checked on jail track and saw that she had been arrested by us, which shows her picture.
Okay, so you had her name, put her name in jail tracks, and it had showed that she had been arrested prior in Georgia, in Gwinnett County. And so you were able to compare the photo that you were looking at on the 26th of February to the person you had just had contact with.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got it. I think the judge has it too. Thank you very much.
I just was trying to keep him from going into any prior arrests.
No, I think it automatically, if he hadn't had contact with her, the question just comes up in terms.
Yes, sir. All right. Any further witnesses or evidence on behalf of the state?
Behalf of the state, Judge, thank you.
Any witnesses or evidence on behalf of the defense?
Judge, no evidence, only argument.
Go ahead, Mr. Lewis.
Judge, the fleeing and attempting to elude, that is what it is. As my understanding, the testimony is she was in the driver's seat, so that's going to stand. But loitering and prowling, I think that's sort of thin.
I submit on that one.
Okay. So then we get into these devices, Judge, the forgery, the criminal possession. I think the forgery third degree, because they no contact with anybody.
I submit on that one as well.
Okay. The criminal possession of a financial transaction card forgery device. My only argument as to that, Judge, is she's in a vehicle that we know is rented. We don't know how long. We know the vehicle is still under valid rental. That's what the officers indicated. It's not stolen, but we don't know how long my client has been in that vehicle. We know she's driving it, but obviously the owner could have left those items there. The passenger could have left those items there, and so that's really my argument as to the possession of financial transaction card forgery device. She's merely present. As to the identity theft fraud, using or possessing identifying info concerning a person, I'm going to make the same argument. It doesn't appear, Judge, that there's any manipulation of any identification where my client has put the name or somebody else has put someone else's name with her face. And obviously, I think that would change a number of material things. If the officer had indicated that there are a number of photos that could have been substituted, or that there was a laminating machine or something like that. So I think just based on what you have, to me, it's like one of those when they come across a homeless person and he's got like a radar detector in the vehicle and he's got somebody's Froyo card, and it's like, well, is this stolen? Is this not stolen? We just don't know. And I think it's that type of case. So I think ultimately, Judge, the fleeing and attempting to elude gets bound over, and I think the court really has to say, is there sufficient connection with the items in a vehicle that's not rented to my client to tie her to those items to say that she possessed them? I say no. Prosecutor may say yes. Judge in the black robe gets to make the decision.
Mr. Williams, your argument?
As it relates to what I perceive Mr. Lewis's argument to be is an attack on the knowing possession of the items in the car. The fact that the driver, Miss Summers, objected to a search, did not want a dog to be called, acted in such a way as to flee and then abandon the car, tells you she knew there was stuff the police were not going to be happy to find. And we here are at a probable cause standard. I think Mr. Lewis makes a fine closing argument for a jury, but there is some reason to believe that she did know about that evidence. That carries the state's burden as probable cause about the knowing possession. When it comes to the IDs, to the extent that he argued, there's very little evidence to suggest those people, their information was being held for fraudulent purposes. One may have their ID, might even have the ID of another person, but the fact that there were 3 different identities in there in terms of social security cards and other identifying information, the court can draw the reasonable conclusion from that information was being held for a willfully fraudulent purpose. And so I'm going to ask the court to bind over count 1, fleeing attempt to delude. I believe that to be alleged as a misdemeanor. I've submitted as to count 2, the forgery in the 3rd degree. I'm asking the court to bind over criminal possession of a financial transaction card forgery device as alleged, as well as identity fraud as alleged. Thank you.
Judge, can I just be heard just super brief? And the prosecutor made the argument her fleeing may indicate some knowledge of intent. And the only thing I'm going to say about that, I'm sure the court heard.
Mr. Lewis, if you'd speak up, I can't believe I'm saying that to you, but I'm having trouble hearing you.
I'm sorry. Judge, I'm sure you heard the officer indicate that she had been arrested earlier, which meant that she may be on bond. I don't know what the prior charge was. I don't know what the instruction was. So I would contend that her fleeing could be done for another reason other than her intent to possess and her knowledge. That's the only argument I would have.
All right. With regard to warrant 21W02775 loitering, that is dismissed. 2776, the misdemeanor attempting to elude. I do find there is probable cause to bind that over. Warrant 2777 is dismissed, forgery in the third degree. And then warrants 2778 and 2779, given all the facts and circumstances before the court, I do find there is probable cause, given the number of identities, the fleeing and abandoning of the car and her being the driver of the vehicle. I do think there is sufficient probable cause to bind those over as well. So 2 warrants are dismissed, 3 are bound over as charged. Is there, and then the other warrants, 21W0736 through 7365 are reset.
That's right, Judge.
Is there a motion for bond or reconsideration of bond on these warrants, Mr. Lewis?
Judge, I don't think she has a bond on the warrants as they currently stand. So I would respectfully ask to be heard on the issue of bond. Obviously, the prosecutor may have some more information than I have because I don't know what the prior on bond was for. So I don't know what to tell you first or have I swear my client in first.
Yeah. All right. So the loitering was dismissed. The attempting to elude has a $2,000 bond. Forgery in the third was dismissed and bond was denied on those 2 remaining felonies. What is the state's position regarding bond, Mr. Williams?
Judge did oppose this bond.
And what's your basis?
Risk to commit new felonies if released.
Any history you want to tell me about?
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
That the defendant, as far as I can tell, has no prior convictions. I do, however, show a pending theft out of Tennessee with an arrest date of January of 2021. She also has a pending case before Division 8 from arrest date dating from September of 2020 for identity fraud and 2 counts of financial transaction card fraud, and a second arrest here in Georgia and Gwinnett County in February of 2021, methamphetamine and tools for the commission of the crime, leading to now 4 separate pending sets of warrants against this defendant.
Message.
I understand she's not convicted, Your Honor, but that number, I would call this a smoke and fire argument. That much smoke tells me there's some fire, and the court should deny bond, as she's a risk to commit new felonies if released on bond.
As best you can tell, she's out on bond on 3 separate prior cases.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Lewis.
Judge, I'm going to swear my client in. Raise your right hand. Ms. Summers, do you swear affirm testimony provided this afternoon case of State of Georgia versus Sarah Summers will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay.
Let me interrupt you before you go any further, Mr. Lewis. Ms. Summers, this is a preliminary hearing. You do have an absolute right to remain silent, to not testify, to not say anything. You have an absolute right to remain silent. That is a decision for you to make, whether you want to waive that right and testify, or whether you want to exercise that right and remain silent. You certainly can confer with your attorney about the decision you make, but ultimately it's your decision whether you exercise the right to remain silent or you waive it. Sounds like Mr. Lewis is calling you for the limited purpose of bond, which has some very narrow considerations for the court, but you still have the right to remain silent and not testify. I know his questions are going to be confined to the issues of bond, but I just need you to know and understand that if you open the door to other areas, you could be subject to cross-examination by the state, and any testimony you give before this court could be used against you in the further prosecution of any of your cases. Do you understand that, ma'am?
Yes.
All right. And have you had a chance to talk with Mr. Lewis about testifying or not testifying?
I'm going to go.
Judge, we really haven't sat down and talked about it. I think it's also important for her to know that even if the court grants a bond, she still won't be able to leave here today because she still has the other charges which don't have a bond associated with them. Even if the court grants a bond, and what part of the reasons I have to deal with it today, because either I have to deal with it today or I have to deal with it in Superior Court, because the next judge on the reset won't be able to come back and revisit these charges. And so that you're limited to these, that judge is limited to those, and then it forces me into Superior Court, which is part of the reason I think that I have to deal with it here. But I think it's important for her to know there's a lot of things going on. One, if this judge sets a bond, the next judge, you still can't leave because you have the other charges. And the prosecutor, if he really is unhappy with the judge's decision, he can seek to revoke the bonds on the other cases that are outstanding in Gwinnett County right now. Do you understand that? I'm not telling you he will or won't. I'm telling you what he can do, what he's legally allowed to do. So I'm asking the judge about a bond because that's all we can do today in terms of trying to get bonds set for all of the charges that we're about to. Do you understand that? So I think you should testify because there's nobody else. But if you say, no, I don't want to testify, that's fine because you won't be able to leave here today, even if the judge gives me everything I want. You understand that? Okay, so would you like to testify? Would you like to talk about it some more or not testify? Okay, fantastic. Okay, you're going to have to testify loud enough so that everybody can hear you. What's your full name? How old are you?
I can't hear her, Mr. Lewis.
35. How far did you go to school?
I have 2 bachelor's degrees.
Okay, fantastic. 2 bachelor's degrees. What's the first bachelor degree in? Human resource management.
I can't hear her. I'm sorry.
Okay. Human resource management. What's the second degree in?
Business leadership.
Okay. Were you employed at all in 2020 or 2021? What type of work were you doing in 2020?
I was a restaurant manager and chef at Marlowe's Tavern. I also ran a lounge downtown Brooklyn.
Downtown Atlanta?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were working at Marlowe's Tavern. Is this the one up here at the mall?
In 2020, I worked for them for 10 years. So 2020, I was at La Vista, I believe.
La Vista in Georgia.
Yes.
Okay, good. How long have you been living in Georgia?
Well, till recently, till recently I lived in Georgia since '99, on and off. I moved out of state a few times.
And when you moved out of state, you moved to Tennessee?
I did move to Tennessee recently.
Okay, so between Tennessee and Georgia, have you lived in Tennessee or Georgia for the last 10, 15 years?
No.
Okay. Where else have you lived other than Tennessee and Georgia?
I lived in Panama City, Florida.
Okay.
I've lived in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
Since '99 or since like my whole life?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. We just
And I also lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and Chattanooga.
In terms of this last arrest, how long have you been living in Georgia since the last arrest?
I've been living in Chattanooga since January.
Okay. Living in Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's about an hour and a half away. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any children?
Yes.
How many children do you have? One. How old is the child?
He's 6.
6 years old. Who's the child with now?
His father.
If in fact the judge sets a bond and you're able to make bond, where do you anticipate looking for work, here or in Chattanooga?
Well, I'm not sure at the moment. I don't know the answer to that.
What type of work?
Restaurant management.
Okay.
So what I've been doing.
Okay, fantastic.
Adult life.
That's fine. The prosecutor, he may have some questions for you.
Any cross, Mr. Williams, regarding bond?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. Argument, Mr. Lewis.
Judge, I'm going to respectfully ask for a bond in the aggregate of $5,000 on all the charges. She's got 2 felonies and 1 misdemeanor. I understand she's got some other stuff going on. I think that I don't know if the judge should take judicial notice, but I think everybody on the call understands that the restaurant industry right now is sort of coming back post-COVID, and there's a lot of opportunities to be had working, whether it be at Marlowe's Tavern or Olive Garden or wherever. I think there's a bunch of people just trying to get out the house, eating food, and so I suspect that if she's any good at her job at all, she will be able to find employment. I don't know a resolution in the case, a global. The case is just too early to be able to have any real insight on the direction of the case. So right now, at this point, all I can do is ask support for a bond so that she might be able to work.
Anything else, Mr. Williams?
Judge, I think you understand the state's argument based on the arrest and the fact she's out on bond. I don't see reason to belabor that point.
All right. Based upon the evidence presented to the court, I am going to deny bond at this time for 2 reasons. One, a risk of flight, because I don't hear a lot of ties to the community right now, to this community, and risk of committing future offenses, considering she is out on bond for 3 separate pending cases. And so bond is denied at this time.
Yes,